Welcome to Books, Kids, and Creations, a part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I am your host, Tracy Bloom, and I feature people who inspire and uplift future generations with their work. And today I have a phenomenal author, Glenn Somodi, on the show. Glenn, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So first of all, not former Ohioan, present Ohioan.
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah, it's present. Yes. I only spent like 2 years in New Jersey, and that's about it.
Okay. Now you're an Ohioan, so
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah.
I have just been devouring this book. This is your book, Olly and the Spores of Oak Hill. And you made these adorable little bookmarks to go with them. And you're a maker and creator of all beautiful things. But for this book, so talk about the inspiration for it, because I think you might be like me and get ideas and dreams.
Exactly. Yes. As a matter of fact, reading your biography, I'm like, we're kindred spirits.
Yes.
I think I don't know if you wake up as early or stay up as late as I do, but I lay in bed and think about stories. And I actually write my stories in my kind of that twilight stage before I sleep. And every night I kind of like repeat where I was and kind of improve on them in my head. At least they're good in my head, but yeah. And then sometimes I'll wake up at 5 a.m. and just get creative, and I just can't sleep, so I'll go and do something creative. But
yeah. So did parts of this book come in dream form, or just curious about what pieces like presented themselves to you?
Well, if I have a hard time going to sleep, sometimes I'll think about like some of the things that I would do in my childhood, like go out in the woods.
Yeah.
We used to spend all day in the woods, and like we would dig holes and we cover them with sticks and bury our little forts, and then we just like build little communities out in the woods. So I would always think about that kind of stuff when I'm falling asleep, and just kind of the fun we used to have. And a lot of that story actually came out of the character Olly is kind of like me when I was little.
Yeah.
And M is a little redheaded girl with freckles. That's my wife.
Oh.
So we didn't know each other when we were little, but I kind of, pulled those two characters together. So
yeah. Well, so how long have you been writing for? And how long did this book take you to publish?
Okay. I've only been writing since COVID started.
Oh.
So
Oh my gosh.
I wrote a little bit. I was more of an artist and a designer and a crafting type person. But when COVID hit, I ended up with like about an hour and a half a day of free time because I started working at home, and I didn't have to drive all the way to the office. So I used that time, and I finally decided I want to put one of these stories down on paper. And so that kind of started. So it was probably around 2 years ago. And you asked how long it took. In all, it took me about a year, because I would write and then I'd kind of rewrite, and then I got stuck. I think like any other author. And it just took me a while, but finally, I got kind of tired of people saying, "When are you going to finish that book?" Because I kept talking about it, and even my daughter's friends, I told them, "Yeah, I'm writing a book. It's almost done, almost done." And
if it makes you feel any better, I've been saying I'm almost done with a chapter book since July. I'm almost done. Like it's almost done.
Yes, my second book of the series is supposed to be done in October.
Yeah.
So I'm about a month behind now, and that was even a reset timeline. So now I'm trying for a Christmas so I can give them out as Christmas gifts. But
yeah. And speaking of gifts, you have such talent. I mean, first of all, I was reading this and you are such a wordsmith. Like I went, wow, I'll just say it in the beginning where one of the characters dies. I went, he killed that character so beautifully. It's something that I think authors, especially when you step from working in the world of children's books into something like this, you want to be so tactful with how you present death, and you did it in such a beautiful way. And I went, oh my gosh, I bet he's been writing for decades. Like,
I appreciate that.
So talented.
But it's funny that I really appreciate that, because I feel like an imposter sometimes. So I know the imposter syndrome, but because it is my first book, I've had a lot of like second guessing on myself. and
Yeah.
killing somebody in the beginning of a children's book, or it really started out as a young adult book, but then somebody told me I'm more middle grade, and
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't be killing people off in the beginning of the book, so,
Yeah.
but I appreciate that. So
Yeah. And then you also have these beautiful carved books.
yes.
How did you start doing that? Because I mean,
Yeah.
they're just phenomenal.
Oh,
How did
thank you.
you start like dabbling with that or learning to do that?
Um, I saw a piece that somebody had done where they had, it was a black and white piece, and it was really almost like real modern, where they had taken like really old historic photos and new things and mixed them together in like a layered art piece. And I thought, I've got all these books sitting around that I'm not using,
Yeah.
and so I started to think, wow, I could create some pretty cool artwork, using those books. And then I started doing kids books, so I did like Alice in Wonderland, I did Winnie the Pooh, and so what I did is I started to kind of create these art pieces. And I can't take credit, because a lot of the art that I use in my books are actually other people's graphics, but I watercolor them and I layer them and I kind of massage them to get to fit in those books. So
Yeah.
um, and then I started going to the libraries and finding that you could get books for like 50 cents or $1. So I started looking for different themes, and those kind of gave me some ideas. So I just kind of, and then I joined a craft show, and I had to fill my craft show with enough stuff to make me look like I actually had things to sell. So I kind of went on a bend for about a month, where every morning I'd wake up at 5 and I would create at least one, if not two books a day.
Wow.
And so I started to get interested in like all the different themes that I could do.
Yeah. And
Star
so are
Trek.
you like hand doing this?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. So I had to hand cut out the center of the books, and then
Yeah.
that's the hardest part. And actually I get a sweat working on trying to cut these things out, because sometimes
Or
it's
like
hard to get
morning
through them.
workout.
Yeah. Yeah. And but yeah, and then the layered art part is fun. I mean, I'm a graphic designer kind of by trade, so I love the idea of layering things and adding color to them. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And then speaking of color, you also have your fabulous watercolors. I was
Thank-
just oogling over your website. Like I was like, oh, look at these watercolors. They're so
oh,
beautiful. I
thank you.
mean, you just have so much talent, like with everything you're pursuing. It just seems like everything you put out is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Did
Appreciate it.
you did you do any kind of like lessons in art or
Um, not re- I took a couple lessons when I was a kid, because I
yeah.
was really into art early on, but I took a hiatus for about 40 years. I didn't do any artwork, and then like I said, like right around when I turned like 50, I started doing all these like fun creative things. And I don't know if it was a different outlet than the computer, that
Yeah.
working at a computer can get cold.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and it's just, there is artwork you can do, but it's just not the same. And so,
Yeah.
and then when I wrote the book, I was like, I really should add some nice illustrations to it. And I was a little bit cheap, and I didn't have a lot of, money to invest, because I didn't know how good the book was. So I did the
Right.
illustrations myself. So it
Oh,
kind of, again, I kept waking up and thinking, okay, I need to do chapter 3 today, and
yeah.
do that illustration. So
They're so perfect for the book.
oh, thank you. Thank you.
And so with the little spores, the
Yes.
characters, they're so adorable.
Oh,
When
thank you.
you were writing the book, did you like research like fun fungi facts or
Yes.
anything like
Yes.
that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm even doing even more now in the next book. But yeah, there's so many different creative names for mushrooms, and a lot of facts I had no idea about.
Right.
Like, mushrooms connect to each other like underground, and they're like some of the largest organisms in the world. So
Yeah, I
that's
had no idea. And actually last night while I was looking over all your website stuff, I was like, "Ooh, I want to look up fun mushroom facts." And so I discovered that according to the Missouri Department of Conservation, instead of seeds, mushrooms produce spores that are as fine as smoke, and when they land in a suitable place, they germinate and eventually they become new creations. And then once they've shed their spores, they collapse and deteriorate.
yep. And feed the other, yeah, feed the land. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I was
Yep.
like, oh,
Yeah, and what's fun is writing that book, I started to get into mushrooms, and I contacted a lot of like local mushroom growers, and
yeah,
um I actually bought a miniature mushroom growing kit and was growing mushrooms in my office just to see how that how it works. And
right.
it's funny, last year was the trend of the year was mushrooms when my book came out. So I was
You're
like,
on point.
yeah, right, right.
Did I see that you're doing recipes?
I do. I'm trying to. I heard you're a cook too, or you and your
Oh
husband
yeah.
cook. So I haven't gotten into the full part of that website yet, but I put it out there to make sure that I remember to come back and do it. But I am a cook, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I like to cook different things.
I was just like, as I was looking through your stuff, I was like, oh, I think he said he does recipes or he's working on recipes
I'm
with
gonna put
mushrooms.
some mushroom recipes up online as I find ones that I like. So yeah,
Very cool. Very
yeah,
cool. So you're working on book two,
yes.
um, and you expect to have that out maybe
A month ago.
a month ago. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's this book here. This is not the final cover, but it's Ollie and the Spores of Sapphire Creek.
Ooh,
So this one, Ollie goes to Littleton, Colorado, which
cool.
is mentioned at the end of the first book. And it's got gold mines, it's got more nature, more animals in it.
Oh,
A lot of adventure, survival story again. So
yeah.
yeah.
Very wonderful. And then um for the covers, are
Yes.
you doing your own covers?
Yes.
They're
Yes.
beautiful.
Oh,
They're
thank you. Again, I second guess myself on a lot of things, and I see all of these middle grade covers are all like hand drawn or illustrated, and I went with like a photorealistic cover, so I was second guessing, did I do it right? Do I need to change it? So
I
uh,
love the cover, and obviously a lot of other people like what you've created too. You have some fabulous awards on here.
thank you, thank you.
Yes, more to come, I'm sure.
And actually, yeah, Wednesday, I think I'm going to get something from the Page Turner Awards in the UK. So
That is
I'm,
incredible.
oh,
That's
thank you,
incredible.
thank you. Yeah.
Are you doing any holiday events?
Um, I have a little shop now where I sell those book art, and I sell other things. I sell like I try to use all of the books, so I like make these little paper flowers out of the pages that I cut out of the books.
Yeah,
I do some of these types of little
very
planters.
pretty.
Yeah, so a
Yeah,
lot of the books that I don't use that are kind of more vintage looking, I'll turn into the planters. So I'll be
yeah.
selling all that stuff at my little store over the holidays.
Very cool. Well, I am just thrilled about your work and everything that you're creating.
Thank you.
So before we part,
Mhm.
I always ask everybody who comes on the show, what advice do you have for future generations? And it could be kids who want to do what you do or just in general.
I think keep creative. I took a big gap in my life where I wasn't, and I kind of, I wonder what I could have created if I would have just stuck to it. So, um, use your imagination, get outside, get away from those electronics if you can. I'm gonna sound like a dad, but go outside and have fun, smell nature, smell the leaves, play out in the woods, do things that will kind of grow your imagination.
Words to live by.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Well, Glenn, thank you so much for being here. We will post links to your website and all the wonderful places where people can buy your book, follow your work,
Thank you.
and thank you so much for being here. It's just been fantastic.
Well, it's been an honor. I love your work too. So I'll be following you along the way.